There's got to be a way to thread the needle between making sure that every legal vote can count, but making sure that only legal votes can count. And that's where I think we need to take the conversation. The reality is that there don't need to have been millions of illegal votes cast to have significantly impacted American elections. Al Franken was elected based on illegal votes, and he became the 60th senator, which was basically the Senate vote that allowed Obamacare to pass. We've seen presidential elections happen this century that were decided by 537 votes in the state of Florida. So we know that based on the vulnerabilities and based on the motivations of these political entities, non-citizen voting does happen, and we know that they are impacting elections. The stats, anecdotal and holistic, indicate that non-citizen voting is happening. We've seen it occur in literally every corner of the country by any number of mechanisms, whether it's absentee ballot fraud, voter registration error, and otherwise. The Supreme Court, in ruling on something that Ohio was trying to do, cited Pew Center statistics that said 1 in 8 voter registrations are significantly flawed. There's 243 counties in this country with more registered voters than citizens of legal voting age. California's voter registration rate is 101%. So we know that we have problems in terms of marrying up the people that are on the voter registration lists with the people who should legally be registered to vote. I was actually part of a study with the Government Accountability Institute in 2016 where we found that over 2,000 people cast a ballot in my home state of Florida and then cast a second ballot in a different state. And that's really not that uncommon because they're just part of the 3 million people nationwide that are registered to vote in more than one state. The Pew Center found that 24 million voter registrations in this country have significant errors in them. We know there's a problem, and unfortunately, problems on voter registration rolls end up becoming problems in the voter booth and the ballot box because no one's really looking to make sure that only legal voters are the ones casting the ballots.
I don't think it's easy, but there is a blueprint to do it. And I think the blueprint is to follow federal law. Federal law talks about an ongoing list maintenance process, which really means there needs to be activity taking place all the time to maintain the accuracy of the voter rolls. The real key is to be on top of an energetic, ongoing list maintenance program that takes place every quarter, every year, not just once every 2 years. You can vote a provisional ballot. That means that you can vote a ballot and then it allows the election office to research that ballot. And they will research it and determine if you were indeed an eligible voter and count the ballot. The reality of it is voter ID really helps on the front end of the registration process, and a process of identification and confirmation of identity will help to allow just those eligible citizens to become registered voters. ID at the polling place is really a last measure to try to ensure that anyone who sort of was allowed through that process that may not be eligible, that at the polling place, they'll at least have an ID to show and confirm identity.
There's no evidence to suggest that adding a requirement or requiring a driver's license to cast a ballot negatively impacts the minority turnout at the ballot box. So I think an ID is the minimal level of security that we should be asking of people to make sure that only legal citizens are being able to legally cast votes.
If you're putting individuals who may not be eligible by mistake or some other issue, you're artificially inflating your voter rolls and you're placing individuals that are otherwise ineligible on the voter rolls. So usually we want to make sure that folks are eligible to vote and there's no mistake before we put them on the voter rolls. The DMV, the driver's license agency, is not designed to be voter registration, but the federal law requires it in many ways. And so you're putting the onus of citizen verification on these DMVs. And so what had happened in California and other places is that the DMV made mistakes. The bureaucracy failed to perform. Has that ever surprised anybody? And so what you had is unfortunately non-citizens being placed on the voter rolls. Automatically just placing people on the voter rolls without adequate citizen verification or other eligibility verification can cause problems that dramatically decrease confidence in our registration and our voting process. And we need to be better. We need to do better on that. We need to make sure those processes are strong and in place before we just willy-nilly automatically place people on the voter rolls.
Any election official that's honest with you will tell you that the system is rife with vulnerabilities. And so I think it's naive to suspect that those vulnerabilities aren't being exploited by politically minded actors.
This is not normally an issue that they address. So your voice to them on stressing the importance of the integrity of the voting process goes a long way in having them make it a priority. And it is your democracy, and you need to act to make sure the legislators know that it's important to you.
I mean, when states like California and their automatic voter registration with driver's license renewal produces 100,000 errors in the first year of implementation, I think it says that it warrants further scrutiny. And that means honest conversations and courageous politicians that are willing to have those honest conversations about how much of a problem do we really have before we can know we can address it. Unfortunately, I think people on the left don't even want us to have that analysis of just how much of a problem there is.